Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday night, the 1st of November, All Saints Day. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. And you're going to have decorating needs because we're in that sprint now to the finish line. As I often refer to November 1st to December 25th as one long day. They have everything you need to make your home look like the best home on the block, including the countdown clock, Santa, the snowmen, each standing on their shoulders saying, "Oh joy." And of course, you can't have a holiday without at least one elf on a shelf. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York. Their telephone number is 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. Omni True Value Hardware's got rock salt galore and snow melt products galore as well. With the shortages, it's going to be tough to find, and you know when the first snowstorm comes, that stuff disappears in a hurry. And they have the lowest prices anywhere in the tri-state area. Pelledo and Mag Ice Pellets and Flakes, along with all other types of snow melt products, snow blowers, shovels, you name it, they got it. They're at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. It really is, Mr. Rayo.
It is. It is.
It is. Yes. All right, hang on. Let me get the big Omni sign out, because they got the little one on the lower left and Holiday Lighting by Giannini on the lower right. Took a signal hit here. Hold on. We were both holding on. Signal reconnecting. Apologize, everybody, for the circle of death. There we go. Sorry about that. This never happens at all during the day. As soon as we do on the show, kaboom. Today's forecast: morning, I'm up. Isn't that enough? Afternoon, periods of irritability throughout the day. Evening, a 90% chance of the same tomorrow. That's correct. You are correct.
Happy Monday to all.
Yes, exactly. Just as, yes, William Huber, they probably have flamethrowers as well, too. Just a reminder to everybody, and I put the reminder on the top of the chat board in case you tune in later, or tune out and tune in later, or just forget. No show tomorrow and no show on Wednesday. Joe and I will be back on Thursday.
At 8:30.
Yeah, at 8:30 Eastern time, just so you know. Thursday, 8:30 Eastern time. So I got a question. Not that it made any difference, because the Friday and Saturday you had this massive upper air circulation putting the entire everywhere east of the Mississippi in clouds. But what happened with that thing, that celestial event that was supposed to happen?
This only goes to show that not only have we not mastered all of the aspects of Earth weather, but we are also still trying to master all of the aspects of space weather. On Thursday, there was an X-class flare, the strongest type of flare possible, that erupted on the sun. It was right in the central part of the sun, shot all of its subatomic debris or subatomic particles toward the Earth. The expectation was that all of that would be drawn in by the Earth's magnetic poles and produce a beautiful display of the northern lights on Saturday night. Guess what? It didn't happen. There was a weak magnetic storm, but not the potent, robust, major, severe. Joe, they actually called for the possibility of a severe geomagnetic storm on Saturday night. And I'm saying to myself, oh, darn it, we got clouds. We're not going to see this event or whatever. But I don't feel so bad, because the forecast was, it didn't work out. So now the explanation is, Yeah, the flare was in the central part of the sun, but it was in the lower or southern part of the sun, south central. And a lot of that stuff probably headed toward the Earth and just passed underneath the Earth, never really got to us.
Ah,
So you see, even those in the Space Environment Laboratory, whose job it is to try to predict space weather and what the sun is going to do, even they sometimes blow it. And they certainly blew it big time, because I know that from posting that on my Facebook page, I noted that any number of weathercasters, meteorologists picked up on that and put it on their page, or went on the air, and said, "Hey, we got a big spectacular coming our way, the aurora borealis, northern lights," and now it all went bye bye. So
that's sort of like, well, the big storm we've been talking about since Charlemagne. Well, it happened, but it passed to the south. Precisely, Robin.
What are you going to do?
You're not much.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it didn't matter because everybody was socked in with clouds anyhow. So what was it would have. I would have thought it would have been the opposite, that it would have wound up being some spectacular event, and we would just have been sitting here in total frustration over the fact that you wouldn't be able to see it.
That's how it usually works out, but this time it didn't work out that way. What are you going to do?
Now, Johnny Quest says,
and by the way, for Halloween, the forecast yesterday was for, well, there might be a shower or a sprinkle here and there. No big deal. Go out and trick or treat. Well, yesterday, my wife and I decided we'd go to the Mohegan Lake Diner to have dinner. And it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We look out the window. All of a sudden, it starts pouring to beat the band. And then a few minutes later, we saw a rainbow. But I'm saying to myself, if any kid out there was trick or treating and thinking that, no big deal, it's going to be nice weather for trick or treat, they said, "What the heck is this?"
Right. And Saturday, which was supposed to was supposed to turn out to be the worst of the 2 weekend days, wound up being the better of the two, with the exception of Central and Eastern Long Island and Central and Eastern Connecticut on up in New England, where it rained pretty much all day. But yeah, it happens sometimes. Johnny Quest says, Joe, he calls to your attention that there is an asteroid about the size of 2 football fields. I mean, that's big enough to fit a shopping mall on. And that's supposed to pass close to the Earth this week, or is it supposed to pass to the Earth this week? Should I get one last haircut before it collides, or what?
I'm looking here. I don't see that. I'm looking at the list of. Well, wait a minute. We're into November now, right? Yeah.
Right. Today is All Saints Day in honor of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I see that tomorrow's November 2nd, there's an asteroid, estimated size 131 meters. Now, that's pretty big. That's supposed to be passing, how close? At a velocity of, how many kilometers per second? 9.9 kilometers per second. And it's going to be 13.9 lunar distances. So 13.9 times the average distance of the moon. That's really not,
it's that close.
Get too upset, get upset about.
That's like over 3 million miles.
Well, 13.9 times a quarter of a million is what?
Right. So, that's over 3 million miles.
Right. So what are you getting all upset about?
Oh, I'm not upset.
And it's 131 meters is what, about 390 feet or something like. So maybe not twice the size of, let's say, Yankee. I was going to say Shea Stadium or Citi Field, but yeah, it's a pretty big rock. It looks like it's going to pass near, but not really near enough for me to, start making out my will.
All right, so we don't have to worry about a mass extinction or anything like that, which is a good thing. All right, so here we are, the 1st of November, and
hold it.
Well,
December 17th, which is later this year,
Yeah.
But still, that's like 14 times the moon's distance. So still not overly close. But that one that's going to pass by on that day, 1,083 meters across. That's like that's what, 3,000 feet?
No, that's over a kilometer. That's over a kilometer, about around 3/4 of a mile.
That's big, but it's not. Again, it's not going to come really very very near to us. So that may be the one he's referring to. But I wouldn't
okay.
get upset about that either.
All right. Well, we had to wait till November 1st to see even something remote. Now, we're going to probably see more of them as the local weather services start adding on counties, because everybody's got their own criteria about how far ahead of time they want to put up, watches. And there's not much going on across the U.S., so we're really focusing here on a freeze watch. Coming late this year, Joe, I would imagine, but the first freeze watches are up for parts of the lower Hudson Valley, southwestern Connecticut, northern New Jersey, basically west of 287, a lot of southeast, south central PA, down into western Virginia, north and west of Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and then going back along I-81 and extending down almost to Roanoke. Now, just because they don't have them up in parts of upstate New York, some of these areas have already gotten down below 32, but I haven't kept track. I imagine it's probably not a lot, but you'll probably see the local offices add more to this. And this is for Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And then we'll probably have whoever misses out on then of Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, plus probably some additional areas will come into play for Wednesday night into Thursday morning, which will probably be the coldest night of this current stretch that we're in.
And it's taken its sweet time in doing that. Last night or this morning, my low temperature for the first morning in November was 51 degrees.
Oh God!
So I think it's about time that it got a little cold out there.
Yep.
So
just to show you how quiet it is. I mean, not that there isn't any weather going on, because there is some precipitation going on in some places. We have nothing. I mean, there's just nothing from coast to coast in terms of something important like a winter storm watch or a flash flood watch or anything along those lines. And I'm not even going to bring up SPC's weather, the stuff tonight, because guess what? No severe until further notice, according to them. So that's looking good. And now my eyes are just trying to deceive me here. I'm trying to see the blue. Okay, so it looks like, I can't, these are winter weather advisories, I believe, in the north central Colorado and a few counties in southern Wyoming. And that color blue up there, you know what, I'm just going to punch up to see what the name of God this is. It might be lake effect snow going on up there. They have winter weather advisories, folks. Here they are. Marquette right now is 34, and they're not in the advisory area. But on either side, we've got 4 counties on one side and 4 counties on the other side of Marquette under winter weather advisories. And also, it appears, if we go a little bit further to the east or southeast, on the western, too far southeast. Let's go north. Come on. Grand Rapids right now is 43. They actually have chance of rain or snow in the forecast for Grand Rapids. And the other area is, this is from the Weather Service office in Gaylord, Michigan. Never even heard of Gaylord, Michigan. But there are 6 counties in the interior there where they have winter weather advisories up for some lake effect snows. Otherwise, it's a big snooze fest tonight.
what was that in the nation's midsection, like around northern Missouri? What were those
Yeah, those were
counties under?
this morning. Those were were they showing? Those were winter weather advisories there this morning. Did I miss something there? Hold on.
Well, they were still up on your map.
Oh, they were.
Although maybe
Oh my God. Well, let's make
something was going on in the.
Yes. No,
something was
those
going on in the Ozarks.
No. Oh, those are freeze. That's a freeze. Those are freeze warnings.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
really.
right.
I mean, this is about as quiet as it could possibly get after last week and the nor'easter and everything else. It's gone dead silent, and I guess that's not really a big surprise because that does happen sometimes. We actually do have some precip coming into the Pacific Northwest as a frontal system moves inland there, but this is nothing like the the powerhouse storm that we saw early last week. They're still dealing with some rain, but I guess it's light enough now that it's not really causing any flash flooding because they don't have any flash flood watches up. And of course, some of that energy has been streaming eastward, and we've got a cold front to our west that is moving eastward. I threw in the chance for a shower tomorrow, scattered, light,
Yes.
but I threw it in.
Yes.
And the temperatures are they're going to struggle tomorrow because of the cloud cover. I think they're probably from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. It may just be low to mid 50s for highs. So we're shaving off a few degrees from today.
I would agree with you on the threat of a little bit of precipitation later tomorrow. Not all that much, but yeah, I would go with that. And quite frankly, I think tomorrow night where I am, temperatures are going to be more like low to mid 30s. Although that would be for a temperature monitor that's like 6 or 8 feet above the ground.
Right.
The ground itself will be cold. No question about that.
I am looking for. It just crossed my mind, but you just reminded me because anything that happens snow-wise between now and say the middle of December, you'll have the Warm Ground Society folks will be, they, they're out there. They're out there with their laser thermometers, taking the temperatures on the blacktop already, just to see what it is. I don't even want to get it. Let's just wait for it to happen so that we can yell at them for that old wives' tale. These are the showers that are going on tonight. A couple of heavier downpours, in southern Missouri, western Kentucky, moving into eastern Arkansas and northwest Mississippi. Lighter showers and probably the stuff you see in Ohio moving into western Pennsylvania is not reaching the ground. And there's the precip up along the shores of Michigan coming off the lakes, which is why they have the lake effect. They have the winter weather advisories up on the upper peninsula of Michigan and also on the upper part of the lower peninsula of Michigan. And Michael McGuire, thank you for the super chat hit. And yes, you are right next door in Hiawassee, Georgia. And if I didn't have to go to bed, I'd come run out and say hi personally because you're not that far from me. Hiawassee's the next big, that's Pixley. That's Pixley. They have more than one supermarket. They have they got the Walmart. They got the Home Depot. Actually, there's a stadium there where a lot of the country music people come out and have concerts there, and not the small level country music people, but some of the like middle and high level ones come out there. So if you're into country music, you can go anytime you're in North Georgia. You can head on over to Hiawassee and see them. Meanwhile, they have a beautiful lake there too, by the way. So here's the stuff going on in the Pacific Northwest, kind of on an angle here from the northwestern corner of Washington, going southeast into southern Idaho, northern Nevada, northern Utah, showers in parts of southwest Oregon, and continuing down through northern and central and even southern California, picking up on a few radar echoes. They must have full team coverage tonight over in LA because they got some rain there on the radar. They get very excited there when it rains, apparently.
Well, I mean, especially since the NOAA long-range forecast is going for a continuation of abnormally dry weather into the wintertime, and I guess they're soaking up whatever they can get their hands on before the dry spell happens, Joe.
Yep.
They certainly could use every bit of moisture they can get their hands on.
Yep. WPC with rainfall in the west. Draw a line from San Francisco to Reno, from there north and up mainly along the coastal plain. They are looking at some areas getting several to many inches, other areas maybe a little bit of rain shadowing going on with some of the mountains there that are closer to the coast. So the rainfall amounts go down and then they go up again. Then there's a gap in eastern Washington and eastern Oregon that picks up in northern Idaho. I would imagine some of that will probably be in the snow and some of the higher terrain. Also, some moisture extending down into northwestern Colorado. Otherwise, the southwest is dry. The plains are dry. Much of the western lakes and the northern part of the Ohio Valley not seeing any precip for the next 7 days. We've got up to a few inches possible, perhaps in southeast and in the eastern half of Texas, western Louisiana, western Arkansas, maybe about more like maybe an inch to 2 inches, something like that. And at least from the standpoint, and probably those of you who saw the European today, if you saw the 18Z GFS, which kind of looks like the European today, with this the second of two waves that'll be coming out of the southeast, the WPC actually has the northern edge of 0.01 to 0.10 touching Long Island and New York City. From there south, otherwise, even up in, except in and around the lakes where you see some heavier precip showing up, we're looking at relatively dry conditions for the next 7. And then looking at the precip field, and it would suggest that the coastal system that develops at least as wrapped up as the European had it today, that the bulk of that rain, and the European also shows the range is pretty much sliding south and east of the air of New England and the Mid-Atlantic states. So WPC is on the same page with that, and I assume you're on the same page with that.
Yeah, we're just a little. I mean, double trouble if you initially look at this with one wave passing by, later in the week, and then there's that second wave, and then we get to about a week from now, and it looks like some kind of a front coming on through, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Even have some snow, being shown on some of the models over far upstate New York and portions of northern New England. But after that, then we turn quite cold here. For next week.
Interestingly, the models, looking at some of the model runs, and they haven't been consistent, at least on the GFS. We seem to be doing this sort of every other run type thing. The European's been a little more consistent in trying to show a colder look in the longer term. I'm kind of looking at the upper air and getting maybe a little bit interested for down the road. I preloaded or attempted to preload the 18Z GFS, and I'm going to roll it back just to let's do the first thing, the first couple of things for the rest of this week and going into this weekend. Then I'm going to switch to the teleconnections, and then we'll come back. But one of the things that's happening right now is the fact that we have this sort of very broad northwest flow coming down out of Canada that swings, broadly eastward through the Mid-Atlantic states and off the East Coast. That is a cold flow. It is a flow that you mentioned a few days ago, that this is the first time this autumn that we've seen a pattern resembling this. And it's hanging on. That trough is going to send more energy in. So you see this little short wave that kind of swings through Thursday into Friday. The southern part of that is a little more vigorous, which will probably mean I will be seeing some rain around here. And there's not enough room for these waves to lift up. The second one kind of gets squashed a little bit on the GFS. The European's more robust with it. But the bottom line is, I mean, it looks like that it does go out underneath us, and it doesn't appear to have any mechanism to help it lift up further west and then lift up the coast. So we'll assume that this is correct. And just notice, by the way, that all up in the northern latitudes, you still see higher than normal pressures going on. And that is, your negative NAO is still in play as we take a look at it. We're pretty negative here. We're about one standard deviation from the mean on the North Atlantic oscillation. And going forward, most of the members stay between neutral and -1. There are a couple of members that want to go either briefly positive or maybe at the end of the period go a little bit more than just be briefly positive. But the majority of them are sitting between 0 and -1 through the forecast period. And the Pacific North America Index, or the fabulous PNA, has been positive by about one standard deviation, and it's kind of seesawing around as troughs come into the west coast and crash the ridge. Then as the trough moves east, the ridge pops back up. So it's why you see this V shape here. And then they kind of, I don't know, about half of them stay maybe half a standard deviation above the mean, a positive, and half stay between neutral and -1, one standard deviation below the mean at the end of the period. So it's kind of a neutral looking teleconnection, which for all intents and purposes, it's probably not that bad from the standpoint of the weather around here, because worst comes to worst, it'll just probably be, you get a few days here and there where temperatures trend to average or maybe just a little bit above before another front comes through and cools it down.
Yeah, I think from looking at the 10 millibar, where the positioning of the polar vortex is, that beginning, midweek of this week, and probably continuing a protracted spell right on through the weekend and on into next week of temperatures that will be declining, that will be near or below normal for a change. And I think that pretty well will tell the story here, tell the tale. We've been above normal for such a rather long period of time. But we're finally, I think, Joe, going to see some. By the way, later on in the week, I'm not sure what date it is exactly, the 4th or the 5th of November or whatever, we will reach the midpoint of fall. And it seems like we've hardly had any fall at all so far, but maybe finally fall will show itself in all of its true colors, literally and figuratively, by later this week into the weekend and on into next week.
Yeah, I'm rolling through this on the longer range. After this weekend, if that trough lifts out, there's another little vortex that's up in Hudson Bay that sticks its nose into New England. And then around the middle part of next week, we just get a little bit of ridging here along the East Coast. Not a lot, but we get some ridging because more troughing drops down into the plains, and then tries to wrap up a cutoff low that it brings across the lakes into southeastern Canada, and then more troughing on the bottom of it swings toward the East Coast. I mean, you look at the overall flow. I mean, there is Canada's looking colder in the longer term, especially toward after about day 10 or 11. The heights really start falling up there, and you're seeing height falls also in the eastern part of the United States. So maybe that would be a more quality type cold air if you want to refer to that. But we're still, I was just trying to put things in perspective when we were talking about this time of year, folks, because my mind is trying to not, when I say cold, I'm talking relative to normal. But got to remember, this is early November, and the average high in New York, just as an example, I mean, the average high in New York City is still near or just under 60. So, and by the end of the month, it's still near or just under 50. So if you're 10 degrees below normal this time of year, that's chilly. But that still means temperatures make it up, 40s to around 50 degrees. I mean, you really need a really crazy anomaly. You got to be like minus 20, minus 25. If you're starting, you're thinking along the lines of some, snow down these parts, and you got to have a really ideal upper air. And I can tell you right now, this ain't it. But very messy looking, Joe, too. There's a lot of shortwave. There's a lot of energy running around. So needless to say, the next run's going to be totally different than this. A lot of energy running around in the atmosphere. I'm trying to even get a gauge of what's going on in the Pacific. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not, I wouldn't be jumping, if I were a winter weather lover, I wouldn't necessarily be jumping for joy over it either.
John Charles on the chat board says, we're going to need more blocking whatever we can get this winter to force that cold air all the way down. You can already see the roaring Nina Pacific getting started on the models for later this week into next week.
Well,
yeah, I agree. We could use a little bit of blocking to indeed,
but not
send
too
some
much.
of that colder air.
But not too much.
Yes. Yes.
I also would rather say, I've said this many times. I'll say it again. I blocking is nice, but it's not the end all. And if it's too much, then it's great for me sitting in North Georgia, but it's then you're just cold and dry up in the Northeast. I would much rather see the Pacific and Western Canada, display a negative East Pacific oscillation look. Rather than, I'll take my chances whether we have a block or not.
I have to ask you a question.
Please do.
If I were to say a storm was developing somewhere along the Mid-Atlantic coast, what exactly is that, or what exactly, in terms of the states involved, where would you say that in your mind places that, the Mid-Atlantic coast?
Well, for me, I've always thought that like the northern Mid-Atlantic, for example, would be northeastern Virginia, so we'll include Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland, Delaware, and South Jersey, southern parts of New Jersey, and southern Pennsylvania. I would consider that the northern Mid-Atlantic. Now, the whole Mid-Atlantic, from the way I look at it, is probably from I don't know, I guess southern New Jersey down to North Carolina. But then North Carolina is also part, when you make reference to that being the southeastern states, I usually think of the southeast North states as North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. What begs this question?
Well, somebody had wrote to me on Facebook, and he said, "Why do you keep referring to New Jersey as being in the Northeast? We all know it's a Mid-Atlantic state." And I said,
Yeah,
"Really?"
I mean, I've heard that argument. I think it is considered however, whoever's in charge of, making the decisions is about who's in the Northeast and who's in the Mid-Atlantic states. I think New Jersey is considered a Mid-Atlantic state. But I find it hard. I find it hard to think of the northern part of New Jersey as being in the Mid-Atlantic. To me, that's part of the Northeast.
Well, the northern New Jersey is like right at the doorstep of the Hudson Valley. So
right.
I said, you got to draw lines and boundary zones
somewhere.
For all the years that I've been on radio and television, whenever I used to talk about a potential winter storm, for example, or developing storm that could be a nor'easter or whatever, and I said Mid-Atlantic, to me, that was always the Virginia Capes down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. That's where I usually targeted a minute. And of course, that's the part of the Atlantic seaboard that kind of bulges out, if you will.
Right. But the purists would tell you that that's the southern part of the Mid-Atlantic. Whereas the middle part of the Mid-Atlantic then would be the Chesapeake Bay to the Delmarva Peninsula.
Right.
I don't know. You know what? You would think these people would have something more to worry about.
De gustibus
Really, don't you? I mean,
disputatum.
really, you got to have some. There must be your life must be so incredibly smooth and without any issues at all that you can sit around, worrying about whether New Jersey is the Mid-Atlantic or it's not the Mid-Atlantic, or you know, I don't know.
Well, what as I just said, there's an old Latin maxim, de gustibus non est disputatum, which means in matters of taste, there can be no disputes, or everybody's personal preferences are merely subjective opinions that cannot be right, cannot be wrong, so they should never be argued about as if they were. Voila. Everybody is right, if you will. If you want to say it's the Mid-Atlantic and New Jersey, fine. If you want to say North Carolina is the Mid-Atlantic and New Jersey is a northeastern state, fine. You can't have any arguments. You should never. Subjective opinions can never be right or wrong. They should never be argued about as if they were. Voila. And now back to our show.
Wow, I mean, incredibly profound. Whoa. All right. Well, it's what we know is never right and almost always wrong is the long term on any of these models. And looking at tomorrow, there are just a couple of showers kind of hold together. In fact, the NAM and the GFS make a little bit of snow there in the mountains of West Virginia and northwestern Virginia. So Johnny Quest, keep your eyes out for a few flakes tomorrow. And then that front moves offshore. The coldest part of this high builds in. You'll notice there's there's energy that's coming out of the Rockies that drops down into the southern plains with rain and a little bit of snow there in West Kansas. And that rain area pushes east. There's not a whole lot to this. The first wave comes out on Thursday off the Carolina coast and goes goodbye. Although the radar wants to bring a couple of sprinkles Thursday night touching eastern Long Island. Prior run did something like that too. And then here's the second wave. Now, the European was very robust. It had a rather wrapped up low, but tight south and east of Cape Cod over the weekend. And the GFS on this run kind of follows up with that. So now all of a sudden on Saturday, it's got rain touching coastal New Jersey, Delmarva down to eastern North Carolina. So in the Mid-Atlantic states, okay. All right. And then bringing up rain actually over Long Island Saturday evening, but it doesn't get much further north than that. Again, of course, the low just starts to move east-northeast from there. I don't know. I kind of think it's a little bit too far north and west considering what the upper air looks like. So for now, I've been kind of optimistic for the weekend. I also don't want to get another Sal Blandino post chastising me for being different if everybody else is saying it's going to be a nice week, and I come on and say that, well, I'm not so sure. Maybe that rain from the south comes up. So I'm going to give Sal a break. He's been suffering endlessly lately. So that low goes out. And there's another front that approaches on Monday. Not much with that. And then here comes another low across the Great Lakes for the middle part of next week that goes north of Lake Huron, and then another wave comes out from the southern plains. I mean, there's nothing really here that's exciting. The GFS actually even tries to spin up a low in the Bahamas in the who cares, the tropical season is over department. And then at the end of next week on this particular run, you got a wrapped up low that goes to the lakes with some snows over Michigan, back to about Chicago, goes up into eastern Canada. And yes, if this were to verify, it looks like it would turn rather cold for this time of year behind it. And now we're at the middle part of the month, and on it goes. So Johnny Quest hitting Super Chat tonight. He wants us to look at Wanda. So who am I not to indulge? Let's take a look at La Wanda. And actually, we got two X's here from the Hurricane Center folks. So why even bother to put it if the chances are near zero? Okay.
Because they need to do something.
Okay. And then over Panama.
The party is over.
Right. Low pressure just offshore the northern coast of Panama is producing disorganized showers and storms, expected to move west over Central America on Tuesday, and significant tropical development is unlikely due to its interaction with land. That's it. Mudslides, heavy rains, huts being washed away, you name it, they'll probably have it. Wanda is transitioning now to a full tropical cyclone, Joe. This is exciting. 34.2, 42.2, and here it is on
East northeast at 6.
Moving east northeast at 6, and there's the Hurricane Center's forecast. Kind of moving very slowly north and then turning it northeast and east and then southeast. It actually goes northwest of the Azores and then turns and moves southeast again. Why don't we let me see if I can bring up a satellite here of Wanda. And thank you for the super chat hit, by the way, Johnny. Most appreciated, as always. And let's see. Let's see if I can get. Where's the storm view? We'll go to the floaters. Okay. There are no storms in the Eastern Pacific. There are no storms in the Central Pacific. Shocker there. All storm views. I just looked at the still shot. I mean, it looked better as a subtropical storm, I think, than it looked as a tropical storm. So there it is. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's this tiny swirl. Why even? I mean, I know why they do it, but you almost look at this and it's really? I've seen tropical depressions look better than this. But there you have it.
I've seen thunderstorms look better than that.
I know. I mean, it does kind of look like a glorified severe thunderstorm. I'm just trying. There's no latitude and longitude marking, so I don't know how what the spacing is. I'm assuming that's 1 degree. I mean, if that's the case, the thing isn't even 90 miles across. Yeah, right. So there's a little enhancement going on. All the frames are loading, which is why you're seeing these the slow motion here. Yeah, it just looks it just there it is. It just looks so some convection's blowing up and starting to wrap around the center. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool to see when that happens, but it's so small. Look at the clouds to the east are racing at 1,000 miles an hour from south to north, and then he's got these clouds from the wet to the west of it that are racing southeastward at 1,000 miles an hour. It just seems to be in this one hole where there's not a whole lot of shear going on, and it's managing to keep itself together with hostile environments on either side.
We're surrounded.
We are. All right, you know what? There's not much more we can pull. Oh, you know what? The one thing we could do is let me get rid of this. Hang on a second. Let's get rid of this.
Bring on Mrs. Bundy.
No, Mrs. Bundy is on hiatus. Hang on a second. Let me go back to the Let's just look at the polar vortex and then we can do Briller Jeopardy and call it a night. How's that? So let's see what that looks like. The one thing I would say with regards to the polar vortex, Joe, and for those of you watching tonight, is what you don't want to if you're looking for if you're a fan of winter weather, what you don't want to see is for the upper low in the stratosphere to become this wrapped up tight little ball. And it's not really doing that. It's pretty, it's rather large. It's pretty amorphous. And actually, you look at this run, Joe, it almost looks like it wants to split with one center near the north coast of Siberia. And now another center. Now it's dropped down actually further south into the northern part of the Davis Strait, which is pretty interesting. I mean, the one beautiful thing about this level of the atmosphere is you have one feature to look at. It's not like you have 1,000 short waves running around that are going to produce big differences from run to run. You don't see big differences from run to run. You see more subtle differences. And the one subtle difference in this is the fact that the vortex center seems to want to move down and park itself up in the northern part of the Davis Strait. At longer term, that could be bullish for the eastern part of the United States. And from what I'm seeing here, Joe, the vortex, in terms of the whole vortex structure, it still looks relatively weak, which would favor the negative NAO and would favor, a blocky pattern developing somewhere.
Now, do we know how high exactly 10 millibars happens to be?
Okay, so the decameter reading here is 2,900. So what do we do? We add 10 or we had 10 or two zeros?
Well, I have the answer in front of me.
Oh, okay. So
I mean,
you could say you could have saved
equivalent.
you could have saved me from making an ass out of myself. But go on.
Well, 10.902 millibars is equivalent to 100,000 feet, or if you will, 3,048. No, excuse me, 30,480 meters. So
right.
When we're talking about 10 millibars, we're talking about way, way up there.
So we're talking 20 at the center of this is 2880. So we're talking 28,800 meters above, correct?
Right.
So we're talking 28 times 3 is what, 84? So we're talking about like 85,000 feet. That sounds a little high, doesn't it?
It could be.
That does sound a little high, Joe.
100,000 feet is equivalent to 18.93 miles, by the way. So that's like when you talk about volcanic eruptions that belch, aerosol clouds way, way up into the atmosphere, to the stratosphere. That's where 10 millibars is. So
okay. So those space folks went above 10 millibars then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They broke.
Oh, you mean the ones? You mean the guys who went into looking?
Yeah. So we have to go above 10. You got to go above. You got to get out. You got to go.
Oh yeah, they went way.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking mucho miles up there. So
right.
I again, starting from the beginning with the vortex moving off the coast of Siberia, it seems to want to migrate southward into northern Canada. Looks lately, this last run, it seems to want to park itself up in the Davis Strait, one side in Greenland, the other side on the Canadian side there. Again, I think this would be, if we see, I'd be curious to see when we go, further in time in the next week or two, if this trend is correct. Does that vortex come further south? Does that vortex center come further south down toward Hudson Bay? It's not that far from there.
Well, we talked about how it looked like initially that it was going to be plunging all the way down toward Hudson Bay, maybe even further south, and then kind of like lifted up and moved back to the north and east. How far does this thing stretch and turn or pivot, so to speak?
Yeah.
I think it's too early in the season to start thinking about stuff like that. I mean, really, if it's going to happen, we get like one of those stratospheric warming events.
Right.
They usually happen later in January.
But we've actually already had a few during the fall, which is a little unusual. But that's probably the reason why the NAO has been negative all this time. And by the way, I noticed on the last run, an absolute, to use your $5 word, paucity. Actually, you know what, Joe? With inflation, we've got to up that now to a $10 word. But the prior run, when I pulled up the 384-hour snowfall map, there was so little. And I looked at it. It looked to me like I looked at it and I thought, there's got to be missing data here because it didn't make any sense to me. Now, here's the new one. Now, finally, you're seeing what looks like, a rather bullish pattern for snow across Canada and even coming down into the continental U.S. So, because we looked at the snow cover yesterday on how lacking it still is throughout most of Canada. So the next 16 days on this run, the snowfall is a little bit more bullish. I guess they must have. All right, here's the prior run. I must have been I looked at it. I saw 384 hours, and the map looked blank. So maybe there was a problem with it, and he just replaced it. So now, because it didn't look right. But so the 12Z also shows a rather bullish snowfall across North America, and the same issue occurred when I looked at the map for Asia, and I'll pull that up, and because I always still like to look at the snow cover growth, which actually has been growing very rapidly in the last week or so across Siberia, and especially on the western flank, and we're seeing quite a bit of snow now. So it's playing catch up, and they might be doing it a little bit late, but it does seem to be playing some catch up here now with regards to snow across Siberia. But we're at the end of the Siberian snow cover growth period that is monitored by those who follow that theory. So anyhow, here we are.
There really wasn't much growth.
No, not during the month of October. It was very subpar, both there and in North America. Extremely, I would say in North America it was extremely subpar. Okay, let's do Briller Jeopardy and then put an end to this.
All righty, I have Briller Jeopardy tonight, I believe.
Oh, by the way, I did get Johnny Quest's super chat. Okay, thank you. And Mike McGuire hit earlier today as he's enjoying Hiawassee. Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay, another edition of Top Movies. According to the American Film Institute, these are 10 of the top 100 movies of all time. Get 8 out of 10 within 3 years of debut to send anyone you want to Antarctica.
Well, that's interesting.
You and I are the only ones why I'm laughing about that.
Okay.
So go to Antarctica. Here we go. Number 1, the bridge on the River Kwai.
Right. What about it? Am I supposed to? What am I supposed to be guessing here?
I guess you're supposed to be guessing the year that it debuted.
Oh, okay.
Get 8 out of 10 within 3 years of debut to send anyone.
Bridge on the River Kwai with William Holden, and it's a wonderful movie. It's great. It really is. David Lean directed it, and I believe that was in 1957.
Right on the nose. Right on the nose, Joe. Here's one of my favorites, which is not shown enough on television. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
1938.
Oh, off by 1, but still very, very good. 39.
39. Okay.
Number 3, High Noon.
54.
2.
Okay.
Still within 3. That's not bad.
I was going to say 2.
Number 4. Wow, yeah. Number 4, The Birth of a Nation.
Oh.
I'll die if you get this one.
That was like 1926.
Is that what you want to say?
Yeah.
According to the chairman, it was 1915, which I guess means it was a silent.
Yeah, film. I know it was early. I didn't know how early. Honestly, I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen not from front start to finish. I've seen chunks of it here and there, but I've never seen it. Yeah, it's probably 1915.
Way back. How about number 5, The Third Man?
Oh, no, just stop. You know what? I would have that. The music to me is torture. I mean, it's a good movie. It's a very good movie. It's not on my top 10 list, but if they could have done without the music, 1947, gonna guess
Just within the three-year limit, 1950.
50.
And by the way, The Third Man with Orson Welles was a radio show as well as
Yes.
becoming a film. So.
Oh, hate that. God.
How about number 6? And by the way, the music was played on a zither. Number 6, Stagecoach.
Stagecoach was. I've seen Stagecoach a few times. John Wayne, 19. I don't remember. I'm not sure if it was one of the movies in 1939. I mean, it was a whole bunch of great movies that came out that could credited to 1939. So I'll just say 1939.
And right on the nose again, along with Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, also
Right.
1939.
And The
How about
Wizard of
number
Oz,
7?
and Gone with the Wind, and a whole host of others.
Yep. Now, when I see the name of this movie, I think of Batman. I'm not gonna. It's the name of the movie. It's not Shame. It's Shane.
Oh, Shane. Right, Shane. Right. And Cliff Robertson played Shame.
Yeah, right.
On Batman.
Right.
And I think he played Shane on the movie Shane, which is also, it's not one of my favorites, so I'm probably not going to get this right. I'm going to say, I'll say 1962. I'm probably wrong.
Whoa, way off.
Way off.
1953.
Yeah, no, I'm not. That's not on my list of. I certainly wouldn't put Shane in the top 10 list of movies, in my opinion. But go on.
In your humble opinion, I think in the Batman, the villain Shame, wasn't there a part, Clint Howard, Ron Howard's little brother, and she's walking with a cowboy hat on and saying, "Shame, Shame, where are you?"
Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea.
Number 8, City Lights.
City Lights, and that's of course with the great Charlie Chaplin. 29.
1929?
Yeah.
1931, but you're still within 3.
Okay.
How about number 9, The Wild Bunch?
Oh, good God, I have no idea. That's a movie I've never seen, and I don't care to see.
Joe, you've got to get this one, Joe. If you don't get it, you don't get the trip to Antarctica.
Well, I only got one.
Who's going to go to? Who's going to go to Antarctica?
I only got one wrong. 60.
No, you got 2.
Oh,
you get 2,
right. Birth of a Nation and Shane. Okay.
Right.
The Wild Bunch. I don't know. 64.
69.
Okay.
And finally, The Searchers. And I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a hint. That's the year I was born.
56.
56 is right. Ding, 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 ding.
I don't think I've ever seen The Searchers. I know I've heard of the movie. I'm trying to think if that is Deborah Kerr in The Searchers. Let me see. Because I'm a huge Deborah Kerr fan. She's on my list of greatest actors or actresses never to have won an Oscar. She was nominated, I think, 6 times in the Best Actress category, or 4 times, I forget. But I think it was 6, but she never won. The Searchers, 1956.
Well, you got it. You got it. 1956.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, it's not Deborah Kerr. So this is John Wayne, Jeffrey Hunter, and Vera Miles.
Vera Miles.
Right.
Okay. Well, speaking of, I mean, since you're speaking about people who were nominated but never won, yours truly was nominated 8 times for an Emmy and never won.
Right. You're the
But I
Thelma.
can tell
You're the Thelma Ritter of the New York Emmy Society.
something like that. But I can tell you who did win.
Yes, Jeffrey
weekend.
won. We should give him big congratulations to Jeff Banson for.
Jeff Banson.
He won with
Mike Rizzo.
With Mike Rizzo. Okay, great, with Mike Rizzo. Right. So congratulations to both of them for taking home an Emmy.
And also Lee Goldberg. I believe that was his first. He won an Emmy this weekend.
Oh, very good. So congratulations to Lee Goldberg for winning his Emmy. That's terrific.
And one of our viewers, one of the people who I know watches us and maybe even watches us right now.
Did they win an Emmy too?
Audrey Punte from Fox 5.
Yes. Did she win again?
She won. Well, she was on I believe it was like the top newscast.
Oh, okay.
And she was part of the team.
Yeah, I got mine that way. One of mine that way.
Yes. Well, that's lovely. Maybe you ought to send it to me, and I can look at it from time to time, and wish that it was mine. But
it's no big deal. I mean, it's fine. It's wonderful. But you know what? It passes, and then you go on to the next one. So.
Yeah. Well, one of my buddies from News 12 who moved on to CBS. He was a technical person, a cameraman, and editor. His name was Gus Stratigos. He's a Greek, and I was there the night when he won his Emmy. And later on, I asked him. I said, "So how does it feel?" He said, "How did it feel? I went up there. They gave me the statue. I thanked everybody, and the next day I was out in the rain shooting a package."
At the end of the day.
That was it.
Yes.
Anyway, so congratulations to all the Emmy winners out there who took home. Guess who else won? Stacey Ann Gooden from Channel 11. But really? I don't think she did weather. I think it was some kind of it was a different, like a news package or whatever.
Oh, okay. Great. Good for her. Congratulations to Stacey. Anybody else we need to congratulate?
Oh, innumerable other people, and of course,
I accept the award with humility and grace. Somebody please get those people out of here. I cannot talk over that racket.
I drive my wife crazy when they do the primetime Emmys or the daytime Emmys on network TV, and whoever it is steps up, and as the person is about to open the envelope, I say to her, and the Emmy does not go to Joe Radio.
That's mean.
Well, I'm only stating a fact. I said that enough times. And one time she said, "So help me, Joe, if you say that one more time." And when she says in that tone of voice,
well, I would never. I would never have would do this, but only because you brought it up. Okay, so give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. There's mine. That's mine. They even spelt my name right. So this was for 2005, 2006 New York Emmy Awards evening newscast over 35 minutes. WB11 News at 10. Flooded Out was the name. Was the newscast was titled Flooded Out. It was a heavy rain flooding that occurred over in New Jersey. So what I was really happy about this was the fact that it was a weather related. It was a weather related newscast. It wasn't like it was a typical newscast. This was weather was the lead story, was the whole first block, and That's mine. And it looks just like the Emmys that they give for the TV, for the national Emmy. It's just a little smaller, but that's what it looks like.
Right.
And the other one I don't have a statue for. I have a certificate because I wasn't shelling out $300. I wasn't shelling out $300 or whatever it was for a statue.
That was the Avianca, right?
Yes. And unbeknownst to most people, when I tell them that, I had to pay for this. Okay. I had to pay for this out of my own pocket. So they they don't give everybody who enters, you pay the entry fee, which is a ton. It ain't cheap. And then if you lose, you don't get that money back. And in this category, it's one Emmy. So if you want your own statue, you have to pay for it. And of course, the station wouldn't pay for it. That's it.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes, Joe. You win the honors for them, but they don't pay out for you.
Nope.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is television.
Yep. Exactly. All right.
So we'll see you on Thursday.
Right. So no show the next 2 nights, folks. Thanks for being here. We never do this, by the way. I don't think we've ever taken back to back on a weekday, but I have to. So
it's fully understandable.
We'll see you Thursday, and
by the way,
it's at 8:30 Eastern time.
The chairman says that this Thursday on the Joe and Joe show, we're celebrating, I didn't know this, the 3rd anniversary of Joe and Joe Appreciation Day.
Oh God.
As we salute the 2 best meteorologists on Earth, and that, of course, is Al Roker and Mr. G.
Yeah. You see these two, you see the wings here, Joe? They're very sharp. They're very sharp. All right.
Good night.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you on Thursday.